Well, a sick newborn has been separated from his parents due to Queensland's hardline border restrictions. The infant, who's only a few days old, was rushed to Brisbane Hospital from Lismore in northern New South Wales for urgent treatment. Now, the parents have been granted permission to see their baby boy, but it's not clear whether they'll be exempted from quarantining. When questioned over healthcare exemptions, the Queensland Premier hinted states take a go-it-alone approach.
People living in New South Wales, they have New South Wales hospitals. In Queensland, we have Queensland hospitals for our people. So if there are specific issues, I'm quite sure that the clinicians will make the best decisions based on the evidence that they have before them. They're not the decisions that we make.
Lismore Paediatrician Dr Chris Ingall says this case borders on medical negligence because sick babies need their mother's immunity. He joins me now. Dr Chris, thank you for joining us tonight. If ever there was a case for abolishing the states, this is it. I mean, that is the most ludicrous thing I've heard Queensland Premier Annastacia Palaszczuk say in at least 72 hours. I mean, where do you sit on this?
Well, Andrew, as a medico, just underlying it all is the fact that the border arguably needs to be closed from Victoria and the hotspots in Sydney. But we argue the point that the residents of northern New South Wales are actually disadvantaged and put at risk by that rhetoric, that the way she is looking at the world. In northern New South Wales, we look to Gold Coast and Brisbane for our tertiary care, for our specialist care. And so it's a nonsense to say that we can just suddenly start shipping sick people to Newcastle and Sydney who may not have the capacity to take it up at the drop of a hat. And this mother and baby is a good case in point that the mum was allowed to go by the bureaucracy, filled out all the right forms, but the hospital said, oh no, you have to be in quarantine for 2 weeks before you can come up. And so the politicians and the health bureaucrats aren't talking to each other. And for us, it creates risk for our patients. That's the thing which underlines all of my concern about this border closure, that there are no exemptions for this non-COVID area. We have no community transmission of the coronavirus in the Northern Rivers. So it just does not, beggars belief actually, that we're not allowed to have this 160 specialists who staff our hospitals come across the border to work, all locals, all non-COVID, and our patients who are local residents not allowed to go to the doctors who know them well and know their conditions well, again, in non-COVID area.
Chris, this is another example where regional Australia is being discriminated against in decision-making when it comes to this COVID pandemic. We're seeing many examples, particularly on borders, with this sort of thing happening. Now, you actually believe that the border closures being implemented at the moment by the Queensland government is a political stunt?
Well, I will say that it is not a medical, there is no medical imperative for the people of the Northern Rivers to be involved in this border closure. I would leave it up to the good listeners and the good people in Queensland to make that decision. But I hear there is an election in late October.
Well, there certainly is.
I think people are drawing their own conclusions. There's no medical reason. It must be a political reason.
How is the little sick newborn? How's he getting on, Doctor?
Little Harvey's doing famously now. He required ventilation support and was transferred north pretty much day one and came back this afternoon. I went up and talked with Chantelle's mum, and he had his first proper breastfeed. And when I said medical negligence, what I was talking about was the fact that he was denied his mother's colostrum, his mother's milk, apart from all that a mother can give to a baby by being just close to them. talking to them, touching them. That was denied Harvey whilst he was extremely sick because of what I would put to you as a political gambit.
Mm. And Mum and Dad, are they now being required to quarantine in Queensland? What's the status quo there?
No, so staying here, the baby came back to them. So it's much, it's situation normal here now. And look, as I say, the 160 workers, just moving from that just for a moment, 160 workers who populate our hospitals, so specialist doctors, locum doctors, allied health, there is no reason why they can't come down from mostly the Gold Coast to work in Lismore and go back. There's no medical reason why they can't do it. And there's no medical reason why our patients and their carers can't have exemption to cross to see the doctors who they've always known on the other side of the border and come back. I would love to know what the Chief Medical Officer would make of all of this.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And congratulations, Chris Ingall, Dr Chris Ingall, on bringing this to the public's attention because, as I said, it's another example that needs to be amplified in the public arena because it's an example of how the system is not working. I really appreciate your time tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.